各位同事早晨。
Good morning, members. It is the appointed time and we have a quorum. I call to order the meeting. Welcome, members, to the Zoom meeting of the panel on economic development. We will receive policy briefing by the Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development and the Secretary for Transport and Housing concerning the Chief Executive's 2021 policy address pertaining to this panel. When members speak in the meeting, you have to switch on the video function of Zoom. The screen is to be displayed horizontally, and the microphone will be switched on my command. The color in orange represents members returned from the EC, blue FC, and green GC. Agenda item 1, briefing by the Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development on the Chief Executive's 2021 policy address. To allow members to speak in an orderly manner, I will invite the colleagues to clear the raise hand marks. Now, please press the button. If you wish to speak, I will invite you to speak in turn. I welcome the administration. We have Mr. Edward Yao, Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development. Please give us the briefing. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Jimmy Ng and members. Concerning this topic, we have attended three. We will attend three panels. Last week, we have briefed the panel on commerce and industry in regards of the commerce and industry portfolio of our bureau. For this panel, our portfolio is related to tourism. So I would like to focus on this topic. Since the Black Lives violence and also the pandemic, the tourism sector has been hard hit. It is still yet to emerge from the plight. We have had very close communication with the industry. We have rolled out 5 anti-epidemic funds to support different sectors. Some are more general, for example, the employment support scheme. For the tourism sector, we have done even more. I think there is a general understanding that the tourism industry is still at a standstill. In the previous 5 rounds, we have had direct support for tourism businesses, as well as individual support for coach bus drivers and tourism guides and tour escorts. Now, altogether, in the 6th round, the total commitment is $3.42 billion. Besides direct support, when the situation allows, we have rolled out incentives for local tourism. Under the Environment Protection, the Environment Bureau, we provide support under the Green Fund in support of the Green Lifestyle Local Tour Incentive Scheme. We have made an injection of $300 million into the scheme, and it is well received. And also we have the free tours and staycation delights under the Tourism Board. So these are much needed support. In the medium to long run, we want to promote local tourism. We want to reinvigorate our local tourism attractions. 3 years ago, we rolled out the blueprints for tourism development. We would enhance our local tourism attractions. In terms of pilot schemes, they have been up and running. For example, we have a cultural tourism in tandem with the West Kowloon Cultural District. We have green tourism, eco-tourism, and so on. It is in line with the policy address that under the national 14 5-year plan, we will take up new roles, including the meeting points of Eastern and Western cultures. So with our unique characteristics, we can take up this role with relevant reservation and conservation policies. And we will also work with the GBA because there is already very rich tourism resources in the GBA. And it is going to be the major source visitor market in the future for Hong Kong. And subject to the agreements of the council, there will be a restructuring of the government structure. There will be a culture and tourism bureau. I think many members will be interested in this idea. So concerning tourism, it is closely related to our economic development. In last year's policy address, the chief executive mentions in paragraph 38 that it is a loud and there is a loud and clear heading of integration into the national development. We have to integrate into the 14 5-year plan as well as the dual circulation, as well as the GBA development. So under the broad scheme of things, we have to help the sector tide over these challenges, and also we want to consolidate our existing strengths. And this afternoon, when the government will announce the sixth round of the anti-epidemic fund, more support will be announced for the tourism sector. So the government will support the sector to prepare overcoming this wave of an epidemic, and also get back on the feet after the situation stabilizes. We have 12 members, Mr. Michael Luk, Mr. Yu Pak Leung, Chan Siu Hong, Chan Jo Hung, Tam Lok Hang, Hong Ming, Chan Pui Leung, Eunice Yong, Holden Chow, and Dr. Lam. Now, 3 minutes for each member, including questions and answers. Mr. Jeffrey Lam. Thank you, Chair. Now, the situation in Hong Kong is tough. Businesses are doing a hard time, and there are a lot of businesses folding up. For commerce and industry, we have businesses at factories. For factories in the mainland, we don't have electricity. It is very hard to employ people, and we don't have foreign businesses. We lack containers. Now, about containers, how can the government help factory owners or manufacturers to get containers, because they have no containers to ship their products? It is a huge problem. The inventories are piling up in warehouses. Now, raw material prices are going up, wages are going up, and it is difficult to hire people. So we have two theme parks. Now, the government is providing them with support. Because of the social distancing measures, the theme parks are not opened. So how long will the government have to keep injecting funds into the park? Can there be new directions so that the theme parks can survive? Secretary, actually, the first portfolio is not under our bureau, but I will answer it anyway. I know the situation is tough because of rising costs and the distance and the cross-boundary restriction, as well as the Sino-US relation. Situation is tough. Or in terms of export insurance, credit the government has been doing a lot. Like Mr. Jeffrey Lam said, in the past 2 years, the government has been striving to enhance the coverage of the insurance without increasing the cost. The reality is we had a nice surprise last year. Despite all the challenges, our external trade has reached a record high. That is a 16% increase compared with year 2018. So we have to consolidate our strength, and we will continue to do well. About the theme parks, they are very important tourism infrastructure. We have been providing a lot of support for them in the past. Last year, we have had a lot of discussion about the rebirth of the Ocean Park. This year, the lower park area will be operated under a new model. That is, we will invite a tender for the dining and shopping area in the lower park area. For the upper park area, we are inviting potential partners to participate, and these are happening in tandem. Because of the pandemic, the two theme parks are closed. There is definitely an impact, and we will keep closely monitoring the situation. The two parks are doing very well in terms of infection control. So when the situation allows, they will be reopened as soon as possible and receive customers. Thank you. Next, Mr. Lam. Thank you. Like the Secretary said, in the past 2 years, the tourism industry was the hardest hit. They were experiencing a winter in the past 2 years. But up ahead, we may be seeing an ice age. I wonder how many travel agencies or tourism practitioners will still be there after the ice age. The government is concerned about the business. Now, a few months have passed since the policy address was published. Now, in terms of support, the problem we are facing is that the industry as a whole may be experiencing a structural change. So I wonder if the government has made an assessment about this structural change. Of course, something we have been doing is right. For example, enriching our local tourism resources. But what opportunities are there in the GBA? How we can help the industry explore the opportunities available in the mainland? Third question. Besides consultation, can the administration proactively help the industry to engage in the revival of the tourism sector? Thank you. We have been providing more support to the tourism sector compared with other sectors. Like I said, in this afternoon, in the 6th AEF, the tourism sector will receive more support. The accumulated commitment is $3.42 billion. There are some 1,700 travel agencies registered. Some 100 have closed up. some are large businesses. So we still have many travel agencies maintaining their business registration, waiting for the ice to fall. So when we needed helpers to in the vaccination program, we have employed some 2,000 tourism practitioners to help. I agree with Mr. Lam. After the pandemic, there will be a structural change in tourism. We are not likely to see a massive wave of visitors after the pandemic immediately. So it is not about quantity, but rather quality. When tourism resumes, when travel resumes, we may see a more incentive travel visitors. And people might prefer deep travel rather than hopping at places. So, like I said, we would enrich our cultural attractions, which showcase our characteristics, as well as collaborating with the Bay Area to showcase the Guangdong culture. So we have been in negotiation with the Bay Area's authorities in terms of developing a multi-stop journey in the Bay Area. And also we want to enhance the talents in the industry. The trade, the Tourism Development Council has designed programs and tours with different themes involving history and culture, with a view to enhancing the talents. And also we have online tours and deep tours. The point is we have to preserve our tourism brand. And also we have mega events, for example, a wine and dine fest. We may not be able to hold a mega event in a single location, but we are breaking it up to smaller pieces. Thank you.
好我留意到我哋好似 overrun。
It seems that we are running to a great extent. So let's be reminded that we should all be succinct and straight to the point. Mr. Luk Chung-hong, in the framework for the GPA under the 14th five-year plan, well, we have been given the future direction of development. We are concerned about how the tourism industry can be revived after the current deep-freeze winter. We must maintain the morale. We hope the government can use more in technology and innovation, especially virtual tourism, virtual tours, and more subsidies should be provided. And we should also upgrade and enhance the local eco-tourism program. Last time, many businesses found it very difficult to get the support from the government in a timely manner. Therefore, they suffered losses. I hope you can cut the red tape and offer more assistance to these operators so that they won't be suffering losses. In the Black violence in 2019, our image as a tourism destination was seriously undermined, especially some of the remarks made by local people hurt the sentiments of mainland tourists. We should step up our publicity on the theme of a hospital Hong Kong for tourists. As for cruise industry, well, the terminal was once again forced into disuse. We should make the best use of the premises for the retail, dining, and other related uses. Well, for the startups, maybe there is not restricted to tourism. Of course, the relevant operators can seek funding support from the one for startups. As for green tourism, it's a popular one. We know that at first we make use of other resources from other bureaus, $50 million, and then later it was 100 million. And there was an injection of 300 million again. The TIC was very cautious in the beginning. We note that some travel agents did receive the subsidies that they sought. For the local green lifestyle local tour incentive scheme, from what I've heard, it's a very popular. It's a welcome move for the local operators. As for upgrading enhancing our image, that's exactly what we are trying to do. We should have more destinations. We should present a good image so that tourists will know that Hong Kong enjoys good law and order. And then there are spectacular attractions, and we keep rolling out new attractions, and we have certain unique characteristics that other destinations cannot offer. So I won't repeat all the initiatives that I've just mentioned. As we have this restriction on public gathering, we may not be able to promote the local tours as suggested. If we want to have a cruise tourism in the future, we will have to make sure that the current cruise terminal, is put to other beneficial uses. We'll talk to the relevant departments under the current situation. The tourism industry is because of the back violence and the epidemic in a very serious and difficult position. The government has been paying attention to the situation, but what we would like to see is a sustained effort, a sustained program to help the industry, to help the various elements in this total supply chain. If we look at hotels, coach service, exhibitions, guest houses, they are all suffering a lot. And these industries make up the entire supply chain. For the promotion of tourism, the government should provide timely help. Apart from funding support, everyone in this supply chain would like to see some employment support scheme for all of them, so that the jobs and the employees can be kept. We are concerned how we may in the future revive the tourism industry. So I think the government should set up a dedicated fund so that once the epidemic is over, we can revive the tourism industry and initiate programs to upgrade and improve the industry. We need to get a prospect. But how can we survive in the current ice age, so to speak? So, Secretary, please do something about sustainability support and job preservation. Please talk to the operators, and let's get out of this very difficult situation together. Secretary, I won't repeat what I have already said. I believe what I have already mentioned will tie in with the aspiration of the industry. We have 6 rounds of support measures. Some are directly for businesses, operators, and some are refined to address the so-called pain points of various schemes. So we would like to get things done directly. We don't want to waste a lot of time and resources on administration of schemes. Although we don't have any foreign tourists at the present moment, those operators still in business are seizing every opportunity, such as a premium local tour and even online virtual tours. But we need something to work with. We need to get the relevant contents developed. For example, we have annual themes, we have repackaged some past promotion themes. For example, something like along the line of an arts festival, and we have a cultural element in the promotion of the West Kowloon Cultural District, together with the same for Yau Ma Tei as a district. We would like to make sure that the industry enjoy some business and local tourists would enjoy the service. And in the long run, we hope to promote the branding and therefore bring about improvement and upgrades. For the industry, they have a 144-hour arrangement, and also the multi-destination tourism program for the Greater Bay Area. So we are not just focusing at the present moment. We are doing a lot to make sure that once the epidemic is over, we are in a better shape to restart and develop. Many members have asked questions about the tourism industry, especially what would happen once the long winter is over, and also how we can maintain the ecology and the business environment. I won't repeat those questions. I have a question about the Greater Bay Area. In paragraph 2, it said that in 2021 policy address, it said that there's the integration into the national development theme. I agree. As long as we are integrated and we play to our strength, and then we can serve the needs of the country, we'll be doing well. But I've heard from people that although the government has been saying that we should seize the opportunity offered by the country, the Greater Bay Area Development and the Belt and Road Initiative, but it seems that only big businesses will be able to seize those opportunities. For young people, they have been told that there are a lot of opportunities for innovation and technology development in the Greater Bay Area, but many of these young people are not in INT. So what would be the SAR government be doing to help young people take advantage of the opportunity presented there? Well, we have been given 2 major advantageous policies and programs. For example, the Belt and Road Initiative although we are not responsible directly for this, we have also got the GBA development to look at. And even before the worsening of the current epidemic, together with the Trade Development Council, we went overseas to explore the business opportunities presented by the Belt and Road Initiative. Well, we have been doing this with the TDC and the professional bodies, and many SMEs were involved. For example, professional services in Hong Kong are in a very good position to do this. And many of these professional service providers are SMEs. So we have been very concerned about SMEs development. And we have been doing a lot about the BUD fund. And the fund is actually mainly for SMEs. More than 40,000 applications have been received, and we have injected $5 billion into the fund, and some $2 billion have been utilized. For the Greater Bay Area, apart from marketing development, we are also looking at technology and also technology know-how transfer. So we have subsidized the TTC in launching the Go GBA program to facilitate upgrading and transformation of businesses. We have been looking into areas of electronic payment systems, and also how we can leverage on the TTC's network of 40 odd offices in the mainland, and also a key box listing out the necessary ingredients of gaining access to mainland market. Of course, it's not always easy to access a new market. And last week we just we announced the BUD fund would apply not just to the mainland, but also to the 10 odd economies with a free trade agreements with the mainland. So we are talking about 35 countries and economies. So the scope for market exploration and development will be much bigger now. This is what we have been doing to deepen the programs involving SMEs.
好，各位同事，因為
Members, there are still 10 members waiting, so I will draw the line here. I will keep the 3-minute limit straight because we are seriously overrunning. Mr. Sunny Tang. Thank you, Secretary. My question is about culture. We are doing a lot to enhance culture, to enhance tourism. I'm representing the textile industry, so Hong Kong has the reputation of a fashion metropolis. I hope the Secretary can also consider incorporating textile and fashion into the cultural tourism portfolio. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Li Tang. On different occasions, we have talked about textile and the fashion industry with Mr. Sunny Tang. These are our traditional industries, and they are in a good position to grasp the opportunity. In our program, we focus on promoting our fashion brands. There is a program providing support to local fashion designers to tap the opportunities overseas. In Sham Shui Po, we have secured a 5,000 square foot place with the URA to establish a fashion design center. Local designers and businesses can showcase their work and their designs at this center. So through the center and through our program, we are providing support for designers and the fashion businesses. And we are going to link fashion designs with our creative industry as well as the cultural tourism industry. In the government's restructuring proposal, the portfolio will be taken up by the Culture, Sports and Tourism Bureau. So I think this will also cover the textile industry, which Mr. Sunny Tang cares a lot about. Next, Dr. Tan. Good morning, Secretary and Chairman. Now, in the fifth wave, it has a great deal explodes to retail businesses. Retail businesses are closed. People flow has been drastically reduced, and business is really bad. Now, we are going to see a negative growth in the retail business. However, the retail industry employs some 250,000 people, and there are some 40,000 SMEs in the business. So the government must help these businesses overcome the difficulties. I have three questions. Can the government provide support programs to make sure that landowners and landlords are sharing the burden with the businesses? Can they reduce the rent, or can they freeze the rent? Rent is a major part of the cost. Well, if business is so bad, it is unreasonable to ask businesses to pay the full rent. And also in the new round of the AEF, can retail business be covered as well? They have been left out in the previous rounds. And the third question, I think it is really necessary to roll out a new round of consumption voucher schemes. According to statistics, some 60% of the consumption vouchers were spent on retail. So I think it will surely be a great help for the retail businesses. Thank you, Dr. Tam, for your suggestions. In the upcoming budget, the FS has incorporated suggestions about utilizing consumption vouchers to boost the economy. I think the financial secretary has already given a lot of thought into this, so I will not repeat my point. Of course, the retail businesses are hard hit in the current wave. However, retail businesses are very flexible. When the situation improves, like what we have seen in the second half of last year, they can rebound very quickly. Of course, now we are encouraging people to stay at home and reduce social contacts, so this situation is difficult for retail businesses. However, we are already seeing some transformation in the business. They are collaborating with the logistics sector and keep on operating. Last year, government, as the landlord, has provided a massive rental concession for its venues. The purpose is to alleviate the distress of businesses as well as set a good example for other landlords. The chief executive has personally met with representatives of landlords, asking them to share the burden with the people. Many major malls are providing rental concessions for businesses. And last week, as some members mentioned, whether we should legislate to control the rent. Well, in terms of rental control, it has a wide implication, so it may not be immediately feasible. However, we are urging landowners to alleviate the tenant stress. Otherwise, everyone will suffer, including them. So, of course, the consumption voucher scheme is helpful in terms of boosting the economy, not just the retail sector. Next, Dr. Wendy Hong. Good morning, Secretary. About the tourism industry, we have to be realistic. I don't think we can resume the situation back in 2018 when we had 65 million visitors. I don't think that will happen in the coming 5 years. So I think we have to have a complete and thorough transformation. I agree with the blueprints to develop the tourism industry, but I think we have to create a new growth point and help the tourism industry practitioners to explore new opportunities. That's my first point. And not just transformation. I think we have to transform our tourism facilities as well. For example, hotels. Can we use more hotels as quarantine hotels or transitional housing? Now, retail sector, it has been hard hit, but we are seeing a very robust online e-commerce ecosystem. So I think this is a good opportunity to digitalize our economy. So in terms of promoting digital economy, what thoughts does the Secretary have? Thank you, Dr. Wendy Hong. I agree with your general directions. We have been saying this even before the epidemic. We can't just rely on we can't just gauge our success on the number of visitors received. We shouldn't just strive for the mere number, the sheer number of visitors received. And the number of visitors received is not directly linked with our economy. So we have to undergo a complete transformation, as mentioned in the blueprint. Well, it may not be directly related to the pandemic. In recent years, we have seen many high value-added visitors in the incentive travel aspect. These visitors don't just want to visit tourist attractions, and they are not going after high-end merchandises because they can simply go shopping online. They are more focused, they are more interested in the experience. And then they would upload the experience online. This part is very crucial, experience sharing. Now, there is this saying that we should travel like a local. It means that people are switching toward deep traveling. That's why I said we have to enhance the depth of our travel to encourage visitors to spend. That's why, like we said in the previous term of the electrical, we have to transform the theme parks, including Ocean Park. So transformation is ongoing for hotels. Many hotels are helping us in terms of providing quarantine facilities. We have been in touch with hotels on this front. And about e-commerce, I totally agree with Dr. Hong. Last week, as the panel of Commerce and Industry, the ITB has briefed members on the government's injection into e-commerce.
Mr. Chen Pui Leung. Thank you, Chairman. Well, I very much agree with the point made in paragraph 10. That is, we need to upgrade the tourism and offer unique and premium tourist experience. So we need to improve our facilities. We need to look at software as well, so as to tie in with the upgrading of the tourism industry. And these supporting facilities are important. And on top, we need to look at the service providers, the talents for the industry. We need to upgrade the skill to tie in with the comprehensive upgrade of the industry. We did provide a lot of support to the tourism industry. We need to be more focused now to tourist guides, and we should provide more upgrading and skills improvement programs. For example, we can offer them training programs now that they are not very busily occupied, and then we offer them a subsidy for attending such programs. So we, on the one hand, offer them some support, and at the same time, we facilitate their skills upgrading so that they can contribute to the future upgrading of the industry. Well, actually, we have been doing what the member has suggested. The ERB, Employees Retraining Board, has been offering programs to these people so that they can upgrade their skills, and they are given a subsidy for attendance. This will enhance their skills and knowledge while also keeping them occupied. The tourism industry is one of our major industry. And for training and for the practitioners and tourism workers, they are not just relying on academic qualifications in attaining the necessary skills. They need to focus more on their experience and also to leverage on the latest technology. And there are tour guides offering service online. It's nothing physical, but they will work with major exhibitions and other activities. They would conduct tours through the online platform. So the ITB will be looking at technological application and upgrading, and I also run the bud fund for the upgrading and for skills improvement. We'll keep the industry under consultation, and we can certainly chart our way forward and work out something together. Ms. Eunice Young, last year when the pandemic erupted, the New People's Party asked for the utilization of the travel industry compensation fund to help those travel agents in trouble. And the Secretary said it would be difficult technologically speaking because of the technical difficulties. And now that some agents have folded up, and will the administration be willing to look at how we might use the compensation fund to help these remaining travel agents keeping their licenses? And also the green lifestyle, the local tour program has been very popular. Can we turn this into a subsidy scheme for local participants so that they would come out to join such tours, and then the catering industry and the tourism industry would enjoy some business. Many of them, you know, are SMEs. And my third question is this. We have a blueprint for the tourism industry that was promulgated in 2017. At that point, the longer the term goal would be for 2022 and beyond. We are already in 2022 now. So what are we going to do to help the industry after the epidemic is over? The blueprint, of course, has been promulgated, and we have been upgrading and revising the blueprint in line with the development in the Greater Bay Area. But the broad direction is, as Ms. Yung has said, we have the 4 major future directions, which are still very useful. And we have been talking about various issues in the past 30 minutes. We want to work with the mainland. We want to export and develop new attractions. But the framework is already there. We'll keep it. Ms. Yung asked for the amalgamation of the travel agents incentive scheme and the green lifestyle local tour incentive scheme. You know that the TIC has been launching staycation and free tours programs. Such programs will offer timely support and encouragement to the participants, so the tour guides will not be just doing it in the traditional way, and then they will be able to offer deeper experience for participants. As for the compensation fund, I think the New People's Party understand the situation well. The compensation fund is set up to help people who suffer a loss when a travel agent folds up. For example, if they have paid for air tickets and tours. So now that we are expecting more travel agents to stop their operations, and more people will be claiming from the compensation fund. We expect the compensation fund will be under more pressure for compensation. So we shouldn't just use the balance in the fund to the fullest. It's been said that we have a few $100 million in the fund. Why not use it to help the travel agents? Well, actually, when we offer other support measures, financially speaking, we're offering more for the past 6 rounds. We are talking about $3.4 billion. This afternoon, there's another round to be announced, offering direct support and subsidies to individuals and travel agents. If we are to amend the law and change the scope and objective of the compensation fund, it would be even more convoluted path to take. So we might as well focus on how we may directly help the industry. Mr. Holden Chow, am I getting through? Is my voice okay? Thank you, Secretary. I've been telling you through different channels that the current in the current situation, the tourism industry is put on a deep freeze, and therefore we need to help them. I will just try to talk about the practitioners, the agents, the guides. Last year, you offer 2,000 temporary job offerings to the practitioners. It was well received, and then the people simply would like to have more. They welcome this. I know in due course you'll be announcing new information under the latest round, the sixth round of the AEF. But can you tell us more, or would you be able to increase the scope, that is the number of temporary jobs? Because we have to fight the epidemic, there are many supporting jobs that you need manpower. For example, people making telephone calls or answering telephone inquiries for those who are put under quarantine at home. You can train these people and they will be able to help out. So the first question is about the temporary job offerings to the practitioners in the travel or tourism industry. And secondly, as mentioned by some other members, in the previous wave of the epidemic, the government did appeal to beg property developers, property owners to reduce rent. I note that some major developers did reduce rent in response to the appeal. But of course, they've done this to varying degrees. Some refuse outright. And now we have a new wave. Will the government, on top of reducing rent of government premises, make an appeal, or make a very urgent and serious request to the major property developers to reduce rent? So you did this last time. My question is, are you going to consider this this time? Let me take the second question. Well, first, for government, we will reduce rent and fees and charges for government-owned premises. Most of the programs that we launched last time will last until end of March or end of the year. We'll talk to the financial secretary over what should be done later. Many people have benefited from such initiatives. We also want property developers to tie over the difficulties with their tenants. As for the job, 2,000 jobs offered to travel tourism practitioners, well, I agree that they're helpful. But after some time, many of these practitioners have changed jobs. We have been trying to offer such opportunities, and other departments would do the same when necessary, and I believe that this will offer some help to the industry. Well, we have still got some members yet to ask questions. Please don't use up all the 3 minutes for your questions. We need to give the secretary time to respond. Mr. Lam Chi-yin. Well, I know the secretary has done a lot, very comprehensively. They're trying to help the industry. I have some questions which have already been raised and answered. I won't repeat them. We know that tourism industry is one of the 4 major industries in Hong Kong, and I have been stressing that many people are employed by the tourism industries. The financial industry is important, but more people are hired by the tourism industry than the financial industry. And now the tourism is put on hold during the epidemic. If we want to go for the dynamic zero infection approach, what would happen? What are we going to do to help the industry, whether in the long term or the short term? So even the most conservative view would put the freezing period to at least 1 year. So what can we do during the coming 1 or 2 years to help the tourism practitioners? I've just got this question.
Secretary, thank you, Professor Lam, for your question. For foreign visitors to return to the pre-epidemic level, I don't see that happening in a short period of time. But still, we can consolidate our tourism brand. We have to hold events online or offline. And also during the New Year countdown, the Tourism Development Council really showcased the beautiful skyline of Hong Kong and put us in an international perspective. We have postponed the Cycling Fest. However, we want to host this event featuring the Chiang Mai Bridge later this year. During the epidemic, local tour was really a lifeline. In the second half of last year, we saw a revival of local tours. More than half of the travel agencies participated in the local tour scheme by the Green Lifestyle Incentive Program. So on top of the $100 million fund, we are injecting another $300 million into the scheme, excluding the investments of the Tourism Development Council. We have many directions, including green tourism, culture, history, and so on. We are providing more trainings in these regards for the practitioners. And also in terms of qualification framework, we are working hand in hand with training institutions to improve or enhance the quality of our talents in the tourism industry to prepare for the revival of tourism. So I think this is in line with Professor Lam's suggestion. Mr. Frankie Yik. Thank you, Chair. Now, on the paper, in terms of supporting the revival of the industry, there are a number of measures. Of course, I'm supportive of these measures, but I don't see any measures on ensuring the capacity to receive visitors when the situation improves. You didn't directly answer Mr. Perry Yu's question just now. For cross-boundary traveling industry, for example, coach buses and so on, they have been at a standstill for more than 2 years. And if you don't repair the vehicles, they can't receive any visitors. So will the government set aside some fund to help the industry to resume business? You always give us the answer noted, but you have never given us a clear answer. This is something that the industry cares a lot about. If the boundary reopens tomorrow, then the industries can't cope because they need to prepare their vehicles. So can you give us a clear answer this time? Second question. Now all the cruise tours are suspended. We look forward to the resumption of cruise travel. I have been talking with the administration about creating a center route along the Victoria Harbour for cruisers. Two questions. Thank you, Mr. Frankie Yik. Yes, we have been providing support for the tourism industry. However, about providing support for cross-boundary vehicles to prepare for resumption, I have to work it out with the Secretary for Transport and Housing. About the central route, it is under the portfolio of the Marine Department. Of course, the central route would allow travelers on cruises to enjoy the beautiful view of the Victoria Harbour. I have to work it out with my team. Now, the Secretary is avoiding my question. Fine, I will ask the same question to Mr. Frank Chan later. Well, I know the Marine Department has the statistics of how many ships pass through the Victoria Harbour every day. Well, I have been asking this 2 years before. I know that the central route is definitely safe. So please follow it up after the meeting. Thank you. Mr. Yim Kong. Good morning, Secretary. Fellow members have asked a lot of questions about supporting the tourism industry. So my question is about our status as a trade center. Now, for offshore trade, in the past 10 years, more than 1,000 offshore trading companies have moved from the mainland to Singapore. Now, in terms of profits tax, it is 16.5%. Same for internal and external trade. In Singapore, they are providing a lower tax rate. So how can we attract offshore companies as the mainland to return to Hong Kong? Thank you. Thank you. Hong Kong is one of the most popular locations for trade. According to the figure last year, we were the 6th largest merchandise. We were the 6th highest in terms of a trade entity. So last year we were hit by the pandemic. However, we didn't see a drop of number of overseas businesses choosing Hong Kong as a regional base. The figure even rose to 9,049. Many businesses are using Hong Kong as a springboard to go to the mainland. And also mainland companies are using Hong Kong as a springboard to provide services to the region. So that's why we have so many foreign companies. About the preferential tax rate, in the first 2 years of this term of the government, the chief executive has proposed allowing companies with a profit under $2 million enjoy half-rate profits tax. And also we have other tax concessions for investments in innovation and technologies. The investments will not be taxed. And we also have incentives for overseas listed companies to list in Hong Kong. For innovation technology companies, the number has doubled from the 3,800 a few years ago. So we are seeing a record high volume of investments in Hong Kong. Last year, Hong Kong ranked the third in terms of the attractiveness for foreign investments. Hong Kong is one of the largest offshore RMB trading center. More than 60% of the trade of RMB trade were handled in Hong Kong. So that's my reply. So this item is concluded. Thank you for the administration. Next item, before moving on to the next item, and now it is already 10 a.m. So is there any objection if I extend the meeting by 15 minutes? If there's no objection, then the meeting is extended by 15 minutes. Now we will receive a briefing by the Secretary for Transport and Housing on the policy address to ensure that members can speak in an orderly manner. We will clear the raise hand signs. Now please press the button, and then I will invite you to speak in turn. First, we welcome the administration, and I invite Mr. Frank Chang, Secretary for Transport and Housing, to brief us on the policy issues pertinent to this panel. Thank you, Mr. Jimmy. I will be very brief about the salient points. Now, National 14th Five-Year Plan. It expressly supports Hong Kong to enhance its status as an international maritime hub and international aviation hub. The COVID-19 pandemic is persistent. It dealt a great blow to the transport industry, but we believe that there will always be a light at the end of the tunnel. We will be prepared to consolidate our status as an international maritime hub and international aviation hub, as well as a regional logistics hub. In terms of air cargo, we have the busiest terminal in the world for many years. Last year, the throughput was 5.03 million tons, a year-on-year growth of 12%. To further promote the growth of aviation cargo logistics, we support AA to develop an intermodal cargo network so that GBA merchandise can make use of our wide catchment network to ship the products overseas. This will consolidate our role as an international aviation hub. The AA is actively taking forward the collaboration between our airports and other airports in the GBA. Sea Air Intermodal Cargo Initiative is in progress, and there will be a Hong Kong International Airport Logistic Park in Dongguan, and also an airside sea air intermodal cargo facility will be developed on the airport island. Pelletization and other procedures can be handled in advance in Dongguan, and then without further screening, the merchandises can be shipped overseas and vice versa. And also about the injection of equity into the Zhuhai Airport by the AA, the government is actively following up the matter in order to create a high-end aviation industry cluster in the GBA area and enhancing the collaboration and synergy between the two airports. To tie in with the developments of the aviation cargo, the AA will develop an express cargo handling facility. The project will be completed by the end of this year. The capacity will be enhanced by 50% to 1.06 million tons. The government will continue to work with the industry to promote the intermodal operation and the sharing of aviation data, as well as sea-to-air and air-to-land intermodal transfer. And we will consolidate our competitive strength by enhancing our logistics facilities. We encourage the logistics industry to make use of innovation technology to enhance efficiency. and expand the high value added services. We have introduced a pilot scheme, pilot subsidy scheme for third-party logistics industries with a funding of $300 million, providing $1 million to each third-party logistic business. And the Chengyi, a site has been identified to support a modern logistics development. The site has been put up for tender in last year, and the tender was closed on the 11th of March. And also with the Port and Maritimes, with the Hong Kong Maritime and Port Board, we are exploring the possibility to create a smart port involving different stakeholders to reduce the cost and time required for handling. We have been promoting the development of green ports. We are promoting the use of liquefied natural gas by ocean-going vessels to enhance our competitiveness. And also, the task force has completed studying the feasibility to provide more tax concessions to shipping principals, including shipping managers, ship lessors, and ship leasing managers. We are drafting the bills, and we plan to submit the bill to the LegCo in the first half of the year. And also, we are expanding the ship registry and to provide more support for businesses. And also, we are working on the e-registration of ship to ensure maritime safety. We will legislate against drunk and drug boating. We will require the crew members of local and ocean-going vessels to undergo compulsory testing. I've completed my briefing. I will be happy to take questions.
2位議員
Some 12 members would like to speak, but our meeting time will only last until 10:45. I hope everyone would just speak for within the time limit of 3 minutes, and then we also get the answers in time. Mr. He Junyin. Chairman, when the policy address was announced, we were not yet facing the Omicron epidemic. And now, of course, the mainland has been talking about the internal circulation concept. So we need to make sure of that the logistics industry is in good order. For example, we talk about the supply of vegetables. I think the government bureaus, the Food and Health Bureau and the Transport and Housing Bureau, are trying to pass the buck to one another. Now that the central government has assured us that vegetable supply will be assured, but on our part, we need to make sure that we have the drivers to transport the goods, the vegetables that we need. I don't want the boundary crossing facilities to be congested because of the lack of good measures. And also, when you talk about environmental impact, for example, under EIA, well, you would try to put the fishermen's interest last. Can we handle the contaminated sludge at sea and transport the same to the land side for treatment? Well, yes, we have experienced a stoppage of vegetable supply because of the epidemic. We know that Shenzhen has been adopting very severe anti-epidemic measures. They have very clearly designated area where the cross-boundary truckers cannot go. So that would affect supplies for Hong Kong. If they have a lockdowns of a particular district, they would do it very strictly, and the close contact will be sent off for quarantine. We have to respect their quarantine measures. And we are also working with the mainland to adopt a multi-pronged approach to ensure that the goods needed by Hong Kong can be shipped in good time. As for the other point concerning the fishery industry, we are still talking to the relevant bureau. We have a number of members who like to speak. Let me stress, 10:45 is the time to stop, and we would just do our best to accommodate as many speakers as possible. Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Secretary. I have two questions. First, I have a question about Cathay Pacific and also the breach of the staff of Cathay Pacific. The government said that the cases will be investigated. Have you given up this idea? We cannot defer the matter indefinitely. What has happened with the investigation? Second, promoting Hong Kong as an international and maritime hub. According to the latest Maritime report, our status as a hub has gone down 2 places to the 6th, from the 4th in 2019. In terms of container throughput, globally, the throughput amount was at a record high in 2021, but Hong Kong's throughput dropped. We barely made the 9th place globally. On the mainland, Zhoushan and Shanghai, they were the top 2 ports. In terms of container throughput, Zhongshan is the number 1 for freight. Hong Kong is facing a lot of steep challenges. How can the government help the industry here? For example, can we work with Shenzhen and Guangzhou so that together we can become a major player in the transport hub situation? Well, with regard to the Cathay Pacific case, the criminal investigation is in progress, so I'm not in a position to divulge details. But in terms of quarantine and the relevance of epidemic control measures, the relevant pilots in question have been prosecuted. And also, we have to look at this development in the Pearl River Delta, in the Greater Bay Area and the Yangtze River Delta. Well, actually, the throughput is quite significant. If we look at Hong Kong and Yantian together, well, Hong Kong and Shanghai and Zhoushan are in different locations of the country. What I can say is that we did quite well last year in terms of container cargo throughput. is 18 million TEUs last year, but we'd like to upgrade our competitiveness by working with Guangzhou. Mr. Chan Xiu-Hong. Thank you. In paragraph 2, the government says Hong Kong enjoys a premier geographical location, unique institutional strength, free economy, and extensive experience in international trade and commerce. These enable us to fully equip ourselves to be a major international aviation hub, international maritime center, and regional logistics hub. I agree. But it seems that the government has downplayed the impact brought by the epidemic. The experience of the last couple of years has informed us that transport will be severely affected, and cross-boundary transport is particularly hard hit. Well, other economies have tried to live with the virus in a haste and open up their boundaries. But Hong Kong is imposing strict restrictions at our boundaries. This is of course right, but in the longer run, are we going to adversely affect our status as aviation and maritime hubs? Will the Secretary share with us his views on this? Well, we're looking about the major changes to the logistics industry and the global supply chains. We need to continue to invest in our infrastructure. I'm talking about the third runway of our airport, so that in the future we can have 102 flights every hour in terms of capacity. In 2021, notwithstanding the serious epidemic, our air cargo freight still ranked number 1. Because we have the dynamic zero approach, we have reduced our imports. And for passenger count, it's just 2,000 every day, much less than the daily arrival of 200,000 in the past. We have been doing a very strict measure on cross-boundary travel. We hope that with our software and hardware improvement, we will be able to revive very soon. We have been working very hard, notwithstanding the current difficulties, in the hope that we are not going to lag behind airports in the neighboring cities. Mr. Lok Chung Hong. Thank you, Chairman. You know, the airport is facing a lot of difficulties. When we look at the cooperation with airports in the neighboring cities, for example, the cooperation with Zhuhai, what's the progress in that regard? And also, what about training for future manpower? What's the progress in the training programs offered by our higher education institutions? How can we maintain the attractiveness of job prospects for young people? And also, how can we ensure our Asian international aviation hub status? I very much appreciate the $10,000 offer to some 20,000 people who are out of jobs. I've just glanced over the paper. I don't know much about the details. I would like to get some elaboration from the Secretary. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Luke, for your questions. As for the AEF 6.0, we have earmarked a sum for people working in the in our airport. We are looking at essential workers. They will be covered by the AEF. Well, I can offer more details tomorrow because I have got only 3 minutes here. As for manpower training, 3D Academy, Hong Kong International Aviation Academy, we are training professional people, and we have the fund, the training fund, and with the Airport Authority and the Cathay Pacific Airways. We're also working on training because once the epidemic is over, the revival of the aviation industry is going to be very fast. And if the industry moves on, we need to keep up with the pace of revival. And we have been talking to the relevant parties over this.
Next, Mr. Edmund Wong. Thank you, Chair. Secretary, last year the AA has recorded a deficit, and also because of the a new outbreak, we don't see any resumption soon. And also with the uncertainties in geopolitical situation and the global pandemic, the AA will make use of different tools to raise funds because of the low interest rate environments, and they will issue the institutional bonds and so on. So what's the government's take on it? So I hope Mr. Wong, I wish Mr. Wong good health and speedy recovery. Because of I'm not in the position to publish the detailed figures of the AA's figure. In terms of fundraising and so on, the situation is optimistic. There are enough tools, and also the funds raised is enough and at a preferential rate. And the government will continue to work with the AA. Thank you. Next, Dr. Wendy Hong.
局長你好，
Good morning, Secretary. We have 3 runways in Shenzhen, 3, and in Guangzhou, 5 runways. So there is competition between the 3 airports. So now we are seeing a conflict of airspace between Hong Kong and Shenzhen. The distance is only 37 kilometers. There is obvious conflicts in terms of air control. Now there is a negotiation between the 3 airports. However, we understand that the conflict of airspace between the 2 airports is not resolved. Now, usually it's the first come, first served principle. The flights which arrive at the airspace later would be at disadvantages. Now, in Hong Kong, we adopt a conservative strategy. The 3 runway system in Shenzhen will be completed in this year, but in Hong Kong, our 3 runway system will be completed in 2024. So I think in order to negotiate, to enter into a negotiation with the other airports, the AA needs the approval of the Hong Kong authority. We have to resolve the conflicting use of airspace with the Shenzhen airport with the central government's input. So what's the government's view on this? Thank you, Dr. Wendy Hong, for your question. Management of international airspace is a very complicated issue, and it requires cross-boundary cooperation. The Civil Aviation Authority in Hong Kong, Macau, and Guangdong have been working together. There is an outline development plan for the management of airspace between the 3 authorities to ensure that there is sufficient coordination to ensure that the use of airspace is not affected, while ensuring a high number of flight movements. We will work together to create a robust airspace with the view of mutual benefits. Thank you. Mr. Jeffrey Lam, Secretary. Now, when there are crew members or passengers infected on a flight, the circuit breaker mechanism will be invoked. All flights from the source origin will be suspended for 2 weeks with immediate effect. Actually, we don't have many flights from our major trading partners. If the situation persists, then our trade and commerce will be totally cut off with our partners. We will become isolated. Like the Secretary said, if we lag behind our competitors, then it will be very bad for us. Even if someone is tested negative today, he might have been tested positive a few days ago. So can we adjust the circuit breaker mechanism so that we will not become an isolated port and we can maintain an acceptable level of flights? Thank you, Mr. Jeffrey Lam. We are also very concerned about the flight connections with other places. So far, 9 places have their flights suspended to Hong Kong, including the US and the UK. We call for your understanding that given the serious situation of the epidemic, we have to take decisive measures to reduce the number of imported cases. We also understand Mr. Jeffrey Lam's concern. We will work closely with the Food and Health Bureau, the CEDB and other departments to closely monitor the situation. When the situation alleviates, we will lift the ban promptly. This is a time when we are doing our best to control the epidemic, so we will keep closely monitoring the situation. Chair, I totally support that we have to deal with the imported cases seriously. Still, it seems that the FHB is relying too much on the experts' opinions rather than considering the economy of Hong Kong. I hope the Secretary can give your input as well. The decision made by the Hong Kong SAR government is a united decision. We have considered a basket of factors in reaching the decision. As concerning my portfolio, I also chip in on this decision. Mr. Roberts Lee, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Secretary. I'm happy to hear that there will be abundant growth in terms of aviation and maritime logistics. As a member representing the financial services sector, I want to ask my question from another perspective. Given so much development, will the government rely on issuance of bonds and utilizing the financial markets to fund the development? For example, we have I bonds and silver bonds and green bonds. Green bond scheme is announced, but we don't have the details yet. I think it will do a lot of good if you educate the public on investment as well as the return from investments given the aging population. So my question is, how will the government fully utilize the capital market in terms of retail bonds issuance. Retail bond issuance has not been very active in the past. So what's the obstacle and how can we help? Thank you. Mr. Robert Lee. Hong Kong is an international financial center. Capital flow and fundraising is a very important role played by Hong Kong. Concerning the development of the free runway system and so on, the AA will issue green bond worth $2 to $3 billion in year 2023. Through institutional bonds and green bonds, we can promote green finance in Hong Kong. And we will surely consider issuing more green bonds given the opportunity. We are promoting ship and aircraft leasing business in Hong Kong. And we encourage shipping principles to establish a business in Hong Kong. Next, Mr. Perry Yu. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Secretary. On the paper, paragraph 19, you mentioned that under the basic law, Hong Kong has the responsibility to negotiate and sign air services agreements with other jurisdictions. Under the pandemic, the aviation industry is hard hit. Besides local airlines, foreign airlines having an operation in Hong Kong are also hard hit because of the circuit breaker mechanism. We have more than 100 foreign airlines operating in Hong Kong. So, do you know about the operating situation of the local offices of these foreign airlines in Hong Kong? And when the situation allows, can these foreign airlines resume service promptly? This is very important. Our status as an international aviation hub does not just rely on our local airlines. It also relies on our attractiveness to foreign airlines. That's what it makes us the international aviation hub. So it's the government in touch with these foreign airlines, and do you know what is needed for them to overcome the difficulties, and how can we help them to resume service promptly after the pandemic? Thank you. Given the seriousness of the situation, the passenger flight service is seriously affected. Now, honestly, the hit dealt to local airlines are more serious than foreign airlines. We have the very strict quarantine rules for incoming and outbound flights. Crew members and pilots are subject to stringent quarantine requirements. For local crew members, they just have to stay at quarantine hotels, and then they can resume duty. For foreign airlines. So the situation is even tougher for local airlines. So when situation allows, we will do everything we can to help local and foreign airlines to expand the capacity and resume provision of service. Thank you. Now, it is now 10:44. We have extended the meeting by 15 minutes, and we have 3 members still waiting. My apologies to them. You may have to take your questions to other venues. So I thank the team of administration for joining this discussion. Item 3, AOB. If there is no AOB, then the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.